Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the conversation. It is a conversation that we're going to have tonight. So I've got some plans, but we're just going to see where this takes us here tonight. Y'all feel free, to say what you want to say and offer what you want to offer. And also, if you don't feel like you have anything to contribute to any specific question, that's okay too. What I'd love to start with is just kind of at the most basic level in your experiences. So as musicians, as someone who's connected to music through a healing modality, as someone who uses it as a healing and a therapeutic modality, on the most basic level, how do you think that music and mental health are related? Is there a relationship there?
Great.
So before these other panelists have a chance to answer that more in their experience, I want to talk about how our brains process music first, because it will help us understand what happens when we're engaging in music and when we're participating in music. So music is processed across all parts of our brain. We put people in an MRI machine and we play music and we see all parts of their brain light up, not just one spot. But one spot in particular does have a very unique connection with music. That's the limbic system. That's where we process our emotions and we process our memories. So when we listen to music, we are engaging the same spot that we engage when we create memories and when we have emotional responses. Thus, we have emotional responses to music. When we listen to music that we like, we feel joy. When we hear music that was played at our wedding, we feel happy. When we hear music that was played at a family member's funeral, we might feel sad. We also might have memories attached to those things, to those songs that we hear. We might hear a song that connects us to a bad relationship in our past, and we hate it, and we don't want to listen to it anymore, and we turn it off. It happens all the time. So that's how our brains connect. We can also use music to change our emotions by using that system. So we might play a song to put us in a different mood, right? If you're sad, we're going to play a song that either keeps us in a sad place, which some people do, or we can play a song that puts us in a happier mood, that we know makes us happy, that we have connections to that happy emotion with. We can also use music to calm us down. We have music that relaxes us. There's a very specific kind of music that relaxes most of us, not all of us, and some people listen to metal to relax. I don't understand it. And in addition to that, music also releases endorphins. So our bodies produce endorphins when we're listening to music. So we're automatically getting those feel-good hormones in our bodies running through our bodies just by turning the radio on, just by playing something on our phone. So already our bodies are primed to make change, and our brains are primed to make change when we're engaging in either a musical activity or we're engaging just listening. So now we got the basis. Someone else.
Yeah, I love that. Starting with like the science of it is good to know, right? Like this is a real thing. It's not just something that some people have and other people don't. It's part of how our brain functions. That's a really cool perspective. What else? How does music relate to mental health?
Add much to that, but it definitely changed my mood. Like she said, it's, you can go with your sadness, or if you need to get out of it, you can find something that will help you unlock it and calm down. I think playing music, that is, especially for me, it didn't come natural to me. It can give you something to focus your mind on that is not work related or something else you have to do in life, just something you like to. I'm
little bit of a distraction in some ways, which is something we talk about in the field of mental health all the time. What can we do to kind of distract ourselves, to take our minds off of the things that are difficult? And it sounds like music is one of those things for you, Nancy.
Yeah, I almost feel like music and mental health are just like both sectors of like the human experience. Obviously, we all play music and enjoy music in some fashion, but I think even listening to music and like dancing to music. I remember like after one of my particularly hard, like I had a reintroduction meeting to school after my time in the hospital, and it was challenging. And my mom took me out to the park, and we played music, and we just like moved our bodies, and we just danced. And immediately, you know, I was on the verge of like huge anxiety, not really able to manage my emotions, and moving your body and listening to music and connecting with another human. I think that music just like forces us to admit to our own humanity, and there's always some way to relate to somebody through your music. Sorry, I don't even know if music and mental health relate. I think they just like are. You know, they just exist together. Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point, right? Mental health is part of the human experience, just like physical health, right? And then some people have mental health challenges, some people have mental illness, right? But mental health is the fabric of just sort of how we show up every day, and we all have that, and music can be a good tool to help us stay connected to that in a positive way. Brett, what do you want to add?
All right, I'm going to take us on a little journey.
Oh, good.
So, I'm going to have everybody, you know, you can leave your body here, but take your mind way up into the sky, all the way out into space, and look at this Earth flying by, you know, just in its beautiful rotation, and realize that there's not a single human being on this planet that didn't experience their first sensory experience, their first neurological experience, their first experience of what we might call sound or music, was the rhythm and the beat of their mother's heart inside of the womb. We all share that root. That's part of who we are. And I think that's, you know, what you're pointing out with the brain research and science is just verifying that music is fundamental to our experience as human beings. It's part of who we are. It's how we woke up into this world.
I was, just to add on to that, music has been a social experience for as long as we know. We always sung together in choirs. We engaged in rhythm before we even engaged in tonality and melody. And now, in our world now, we experience music in so many different ways. We sing in choirs together, we go to concerts, we sing in church, we sing to our babies. I have a 7-month-old at home. It's just an innate part of who we are because it's always been that way. Society, or the social world, has always been in a music-based social world. We've always had music to connect us in one way, shape, or form from the very beginning. I don't even remember all the history, but just wanted to point out that music is who we are as people and always has been.
So let's draw that out a little bit more. Because thinking about this idea of connection, and you guys have talked a little bit about that, our innate connection to music that happens before we even take our first breath. And in the field of mental health, and certainly in suicide prevention, we talk a lot about connection being really the core of our protective factors. Without connection, without a sense of belonging, we struggle as humans. So what is it about music, or how do you connect to music that sort of helps promote that? That question wasn't really clear, but I think, how does music help promote connection, knowing that we all have this innate connection to it? How does it help us connect with the world, with others, with our faith, with the universe, whatever that is?
Well, yeah, I just have countless examples of music providing connection in my life, you know? even when I was in high school at Whitefish High and I was really struggling socially, I wrote a song, horrible song, I would never play it again, but it was about being bullied. And I played it at the Lodge of Big Fork, and an elderly woman right in the front row was crying. And so immediately it was clear that throughout our lives, past age divisions, socioeconomic status divisions, racial divisions, anything, there's always a line of connection through music. And similarly, I was traveling in Spain this year, and I'm not very great at Spanish, and I had a guitar with me. And so we would just sit at the park, and I'd ask to play people's guitars, and we would just start forming this band almost in the middle of a park. And we knew nothing about each other, but we were able to identify this very core piece of our persons, and spend hours together. And in that moment, I think you really do love the people that you're playing music with. Like Nancy was saying, it brings you into the present moment, and it's so that's what your mind is focused on. And to not only have your singular mind focused on something so beautiful, but to share in that focus with another external human is a pretty incredible phenomenon that we get to experience through music.
Just from kind of a practical standpoint, I know when I was, in the midst of my worst degree,
Well, the mic a little closer to
oh,
you.
sorry, so many of my son's friends and my friends sent me music and songs that they thought I would relate to. It was so helpful, so very helpful.
So I work a lot with older adults, end of life, dementia, and a lot of what I do is connect with them because they're having a hard time connecting to the world around them when their dementia has gotten them to the point where they're not aware of anything that's going on around them unless you're standing right in front of them. I can come in and sit down and play music for them. And sometimes I know what they like, sometimes I don't, and sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. But regardless of whether they engage with me or not, playing music for them and them just even passively engaging or actively singing along with me connects them to me. We connect as people right then. And at the end of life, we know that hearing is one of the last things to go. We can still connect with our loved ones as they're passing with their favorite music. I had one patient that I saw one time. I was called in on a weekend and I went, and I knew nothing about her or her family. And for some reason, I suggested playing John Denver's Annie song. And they nodded and said okay, and so I sang it. And as soon as I started singing it, everyone in the room started crying. Looking around like, oh crap. What did I just do? Because sometimes I want to avoid those situations, but sometimes it's okay. In that certain circumstance, I paused for a moment and asked, is this okay to be singing? And the husband actually told me, this is our wedding song. And so they made it clear that they wanted it to be continued to be sung, and I finished the song, and I was fighting back tears the entire time. But she passed later that day, and so what did that moment of me being in that room give them? I gave them an opportunity to connect. The husband and wife and all the other family in the room connected with their wedding song. What a way to go! If you have to go, what a way to go!
And I think what I'm hearing is, right, this idea of music being a universal language, and also being that bridge when we don't maybe have words or aren't able to connect. And I think, I know for me, that feeling of music sort of transcending this world that we're living in is very real. I mean, I lost my dad last year, and I am certain that he comes through in music to me very often. it's quite obvious when that's happening, and I think probably I'm not the only one who has that experience, right? Music, I think there is that universal language piece to it, and sort of a mystery to it, that it shows up right when we most need it. Right, go ahead, Brett.
I think one of the things that we're experiencing, as a community, as a society, as we, evolve forward in the various technologies that exist, a lot of this needs time to sort of reckon, and it's moving at such an incredible pace right now, and I see I feel it in myself, I see it in my children, and I'm witnessing it in my community, the amount of challenge and struggle that's here to sort of find that center again, find that place of belonging. The pace of life has changed so much, so fast. And one of the things that I think we've left behind, that this is a great opportunity to talk about and to think about collectively, is, why, maybe the first question is, are we actually losing shared musical experiences together where we generate music together? Is that declining? My perspective is that it is. I think about my grandmother, my mandolin that is so special to me was handed down to me by my grandmother, and her brother played it in their little, schoolhouse / community hall back in the prairies of Montana, and that was the only entertainment that they had for each other. And they weren't professionals, but they were good enough, and they had a boot stomping good time, and they did it very regularly. And families used to sing together very regularly. I've had wonderful times at Deidre's house, at holiday parties where the piano comes out and people gather around the piano and sing. And those are so simple, ways for us to connect, but I mean, just the feeling that we get when we do that. I just want to challenge us to remember that we don't have to just consume music that comes from quote unquote professionals. That we have the ability to make music even with our own bodies, with rhythm and instruments and kitchen utensils, whatever it takes. So I think that's something I want us all to start spreading that back out there. Let's get brave. And now that we remember that music is really important for our wellness and having a sense of belonging, let's do something about it. Little things that we can do in our own lives.
And given that the theme is resilience, I felt that some of the most necessary points of resilience for me has been my desire to continue sharing. There was quite a huge point in my childhood that I felt like my music wasn't good enough, wasn't valuable, wasn't worth other people wanting to listen to, and so I totally shut down. And I remember getting asked to play and feeling guilty about it, or feeling shameful about playing guitar for people, as if it wasn't this gift to be shared, as if it was a burden for them to listen. And that's only recently shifting in the last year. I've been playing for people and they've been asking me to play, and I'm certainly not a professional, and I have 4 songs that I always play that people get tired of, and I think it's brave to continue your pursuit of sharing. I don't believe that society necessarily nurtures, we kind of have a scarcity mindset, and I think we keep things close to ourselves, and we've definitely gone away from this communal sharing of, this is what I have, and I don't need money for it, I don't need things for it, I have it and I want to give it to you, instead of would you please take it, So I think, along with challenging ourselves to continue to foster that community of music, I think we also have to challenge ourselves to be brave enough to believe that the music that you make, or that you dance to, or that you think of or hum throughout your day is valuable because it's music, and that's all it needs to be, and to continue sharing that. I was at a campfire last night, and there was a gentleman with a guitar, and we started singing together, and it was like 4 hours later that my friend came up to me and she was like, I've never, like, you're just in your realm, right? And it could be that I was poaching his night of performance, or it could be that there's this shared experience and I get to donate my voice and we get to do it together. Yeah.
I think there are a few things more magical than a guitar around a campfire or any sort of instrument around the campfire. And Emily, that was like a very beautiful transition for us to ask you to come and share your gift with us. So I would love to hear you play a little bit. And when Emily and I talked before this panel conversation, she talked a lot about the process of songwriting sort of being a way of her reflecting back on her experiences. And I think this song that you're going to play for us, Emily, is a little bit of that. So if you could sort of tell us about the process and what was behind this song, that would be great.
Yes, this song is kind of funny. I curse in it. I tend to write a lot of kind of parody songs as a way of coping with like the ludicrous life that we live. And so this one I wrote just about 2 months ago in one of my really hard days. I struggle with a non-really diagnosable genetic disorder. They can give you a clinical diagnosis, but they can't like test it for sure in your genetic code. So there's just always that like, maybe you have it, maybe you don't, but it definitely affects your life. I had some pretty scary blood work done, and I was told I definitely had a autoimmune disorder, possibly leukemia. And that was a pretty scary thing for the doctors to tell you before actually like looking at your test results. But I was like, oh, it's okay because I'm going to have answers, my way of clinging to this like scary prospect was that there would be some certainty finally, and I wouldn't be guessing and navigating muddy waters. Go to the rheumatologist, they look at my blood work and they're like, it's a fluke, you're totally fine, go home. And I was kind of like, I'm not fine, suddenly I didn't even have this, like, I was almost praying that I had cancer, as horrible as that sounds, but that's also been something that I've experienced with major depressive disorder a lot too, is praying that you have a tangible thing that you can work on and say, like, I can fix this, or there's treatment, or there's an avenue, so that rug was pulled out from under me, and I went home that day and I wrote this song. So, yes, it's kind of, yeah. Maybe I'm a masochist, 'cause I'd rather have cancer than this shit. And maybe I'm an ungrateful bitch, but I am who I am. Maybe I will marry you, but I
I love that line of the sun making fun of me. I have felt that so many days, right? Go ahead, Kirsten, you had a comment?
So Emily, thank you for sharing that. I just, correct me if I'm wrong about your experience, but it felt like that was your way of coping with what was going on with you.
Yes.
So for those people who don't have Emily's skills in music, that she clearly has great skills in music, but those that don't can still use music to cope. And that looks different for everyone. I don't work with people who have mental illness. That's not my specialty, but there are music therapists that do. And those music therapists often use songwriting to help their patients cope with what's going on with them at that point in time. And they're the ones that actively do the music making while using what their patient is providing them. And that's